What if the stories aren't just stories? What if ancient tales of towering beings aren't just myths, but echoes of a forgotten past? For centuries, whispers of giants have haunted our history books, our ancient texts, and our deepest fears. From colossal gods to monstrous men, figures of immense size and strength burst from every culture, painting a picture of a world far different from our own. But what if these tales aren't just fantasy? What if the earth itself holds secrets of a time when colossal beings walked among us? Tonight, we dig deep into the enduring enigma of giants. Are they just products of our wild imagination, relics of a lost civilization, or a chilling forgotten reality waiting to be unearthed? This isn't just about old stories. It's about what we choose to believe and why. The question of giants is a complex one, hotly debated, stirring our deepest curiosity about what might have been. No matter where you look on the map, from the freezing fjords of the Norse lands to the sun-baked shores of ancient Greece, stories of giants are everywhere. They are a prominent feature found in diverse cultures across the globe, woven into the very fabric of human belief. These aren't just fleeting mentions. These are epic sagas, central to the identity of entire civilizations. Think about the Greek Titans. Before Zeus and his Olympian gods ruled, there were the Titans, monstrous beings of immense power. Cronus, Rhea, Atlas, they were the old gods, embodying raw, untamed power. Their story is a dramatic one, a cosmic battle for supremacy against the younger, more ordered Olympians. This wasn't just a simple fight. It was a representation of the very forces of nature clashing, the old order giving way to the new. They were symbols of chaos, struggling against the emerging order, a foundational myth that explored the very origins of their world. Then there are the Norse Jötnar, often translated as giants. These weren't always evil, but they were often wild, powerful, and elemental. Think of Ymir, the first being, whose body was used to create the world itself, or the frost giants, who lived in Jotunheim, constantly at odds with the Aesir gods, like Thor and Odin. They weren't just big people. They were forces of nature, personifications of mountains, ice, and ancient, untamed wilderness. They were antagonists, yes, but also integral to the cosmic balance, representing the wild, unpredictable side of existence. These mythological giants, whether in Greece, Norse lands, or elsewhere, served a deep symbolic purpose. They embodied immense raw power, often linked directly to the fundamental forces of nature itself, the shaking earth, the crashing waves, the towering mountains. They represented the eternal struggle between order and chaos, a theme that resonates deeply within the human experience. Their stories weren't just entertainment. They were narrative functions, profound allegories for deeper truths about the universe and our place in it. They explored weighty themes like creation, destruction, the very nature of existence, and the human condition itself, even if those humans were gods or godlike beings. So, in the realm of mythology, giants are firmly rooted in symbolic storytelling, powerful reflections of the cultures that created them. They speak to our ancient fears and our awe of forces beyond our control, and they teach us about the very foundations of the world as our ancestors understood it. But what if these weren't just allegories? What if the whispers of giants held a kernel of truth pointing to a past we've conveniently forgotten. This is where the story takes a sharp turn from myth to the much more tangible, yet equally mysterious, realm of archaeology and alleged discoveries. For centuries, speculation has been fueled by purported discoveries, accounts that suggest more than just symbolism. It's a powerful narrative, the idea that towering humanoids once walked the earth, built colossal structures, and left behind evidence of their forgotten existence. Many of these claims often link back to ancient texts, particularly biblical passages like those mentioning the Nephilim in Genesis, described as mighty men of old, men of renown. This lends a certain weight to the idea for many believers, suggesting a divine or semi-divine origin for these enormous beings. Local folklore across the globe is also rife with tales of giants, from the Native American legends of giant red-haired warriors to stories of monstrous humanoids in various European traditions. The internet especially is a buzzing hive of proponents who cite alleged evidence for these giants. You've probably seen the photos, blurry, grainy images circulating online claiming to show colossal skeletal remains unearthed in some remote corner of the world. Giant femurs, skulls that dwarf a human head, entire skeletons laid out on a tarp, dwarfing the excavators around them. These images are often accompanied by historical documents, old newspaper clippings from the 19th and early 20th centuries recounting incredible discoveries of human bones measuring 7, 8, even 12 feet long. These accounts often describe findings in burial mounds across America, supposedly uncovered by early settlers or archaeological digs. Some even suggest that these discoveries were systematically suppressed or confiscated by powerful institutions, like the Smithsonian, to maintain a certain historical narrative. This is a popular conspiracy theory that adds another layer of intrigue and distrust to the discussion. However, a closer, more critical look reveals a frequent and disheartening pattern: the systematic debunking of these sensational claims. Time and again, these supposed pieces of evidence turn out to be misinterpretations of actual findings, or, more often, outright hoaxes and fabrications. Let's talk about the hoaxes first. One of the most famous examples is the Cardiff Giant of 1869. This was a 10-foot-tall petrified man supposedly unearthed in Cardiff, New York. People flocked to see it, convinced it was proof of giants. It turned out to be a massive gypsum statue carved by a tobacco merchant named George Hull, who wanted to prove how easily people could be fooled by religious literalism. He admitted the fraud, but it took years for the public fascination to die down. This wasn't an isolated incident. Countless giant discoveries from the 19th and early 20th centuries were later exposed as fakes, created for profit or notoriety. Beyond outright fraud, many alleged giant bones were simply misinterpretations. Imagine an early settler or farmer digging up a field and finding a huge bone. With no formal training in paleontology and without the scientific knowledge we have today, it would be easy to mistake the femur of a mammoth or a mastodon for that of an enormous human. Dinosaur bones, too, could easily be seen as evidence of monstrous humanoids to an untrained eye. We often project what we want to see onto ambiguous evidence. Then there are geological formations or natural anomalies. Stories of petrified giants often fall into this category, where natural processes are mistaken for biological remains. Sometimes, peculiar rock formations, erosion patterns, or unusual fossilized trees can create shapes that, from a distance, or with a vivid imagination, resemble gigantic human figures or parts of skeletons. The problem, the real challenge here, is the absolute absence of consistent, peer-reviewed scientific support for these claims. While the mythological stories captivate us and the alleged discoveries fuel our imagination, the hard facts simply aren't. No reputable scientific institution or archaeological body has ever verified the discovery of a human skeleton that fits the description of a giant in the mythological sense. When presented with the evidence, scientists examine dating, context, anatomical consistency, and genetic markers. None of the widely circulated giant photos or historical accounts have ever stood up to rigorous scientific scrutiny. This leads to justified skepticism. Until compelling, verifiable data emerges, these claims remain in the realm of speculation, fueled more by desire than by demonstrable truth. The longing for a lost race of giants is powerful, but it requires more than blurry photos and old newspaper clippings to rewrite our understanding of human history. So, if mythical giants are symbolic and archaeological giants are largely debunked, where does that leave our lingering fascination? The scientific and medical communities offer explanations that, while less dramatic, shed light on how the idea of giants might have persisted through time, even without a race of truly colossal people. One undeniable biological phenomenon that can produce exceptionally tall individuals is gigantism. This is a real medical condition, primarily caused by hormonal imbalances, specifically an overproduction of growth hormone by the pituitary gland. When this happens during childhood, before the growth plates in bones have closed, it leads to excessive growth in individuals, resulting in people who can be 7, 8, or even 9 feet tall. Think of Robert Wadlow, born in 1918. He was, and remains, the tallest person in recorded history, standing an astonishing 8 feet 11.1 inches. He was a real giant in a very literal sense, but Wadlow's life and the lives of others with gigantism were often fraught with health problems. Their bodies weren't designed to support such immense size. They suffered from joint issues, circulatory problems, and shortened lifespans. While incredibly tall, these individuals, even at their most extreme, don't match the mythological scale of giants, who are often depicted as 15, 20, or even 50 feet tall. They are depicted as possessing superhuman strength and resilience. They are a testament to what biology can produce, but they also highlight the biological limits of human form. Beyond biology, another powerful factor in the persistence of giant stories is the simple act of storytelling itself and the way information was transmitted in the past. We can call this exaggeration in storytelling. Imagine a time before accurate measuring tools, before photography, before widely accessible written records. In such a world, word of mouth was king. A particularly tall individual, perhaps 7 feet tall, would certainly stand out in a community where the average height was much less. As stories of this person were passed down through generations, his height could easily inflate. A 7-foot man becomes an 8-foot man, then a 10-foot man, then a legendary 15-foot warrior. The lack of precise measurement tools meant that early accounts relied heavily on subjective estimations. He was as tall as an oak tree, or he could look over the highest walls. These comparisons, while vivid, are not precise. Oral tradition, especially, is a fertile ground for exaggeration. Each retelling can add a little more drama, a little more awe. The sheer scale of a natural wonder, like a massive cliff face or an unusually large animal, could easily inspire tales of a giant that created it or lived within it. Over hundreds or thousands of years, these tales would lose their original anchors in reality and become pure myth, growing grander and more incredible with each telling. They would become completely detached from any basis in fact. This explains how figures of immense scale could become ingrained in folklore without ever actually existing at that scale. So, we come to the crux of our investigation. After sifting through the symbolic power of ancient myths, the tantalizing but often debunked claims of physical evidence, and the logical explanations from science and medicine, the question of whether giants were a forgotten reality remains in essence unresolved. It's an enigma that persists despite our best efforts to categorize it neatly. On one hand, the mythological figures are powerful cultural constructs, teaching us about human nature and the cosmos through allegory. On the other hand, the claims of giant skeletons and lost civilizations, while captivating, have consistently failed to stand up to rigorous scientific scrutiny. The vast majority of these discoveries have been revealed as hoaxes, misidentifications of animal bones, or natural formations. And medically, while gigantism exists, it produces individuals who are tall, yes, but still within human biological limits, and often with significant health issues, far from the robust, towering figures of legend. The debate persists, fueled by our innate human imagination and the powerful narratives woven into our cultural fabric. We want to believe in something grander, something more mysterious than the everyday. We yearn for a past where monumental beings walked the earth, shaping landscapes and defying the mundane. Until compelling, verified scientific evidence emerges, undeniable skeletal remains, robust DNA analysis, or structures clearly built by beings of impossible human scale, all confirmed through transparent, peer-reviewed processes. Giants will largely remain in the captivating realm where myth, legend, and speculation intertwine. The idea of giants continues to captivate us because it taps into a fundamental human longing for wonder, for a history more epic than our own, and for secrets yet to be uncovered. And perhaps that's where their true power lies, not in their physical reality, but in their enduring presence in our collective imagination. If you want to unravel more ancient mysteries, hit subscribe and check out our next deep dive into forgotten history.